I love handmade gifts. I love giving them, I love receiving them, I love contemplating them for a full year and then not starting anything until mid-December. So that's where we find ourselves now. We have a lot to do. I have so many things on my to-do list, so instead of yapping about all my plans, we're just gonna get right to work. I want to start with the gift that is the most intimidating to me, just to get it out of the way. On my recent Savers supply search, I found these matching rooster placemats, and I thought they would make perfect matching tote bags for my mom and my sister, so I think I'm gonna try to start on those today. And also, as an extra little surprise, I went back a couple days later and I found a third placemat, so after all of this is done, I am gonna make myself a matching one too. I gotta get to work. After setting aside the placemats that will be used for the front and back of the tote bag, I salvaged strips of fabric from the two left over for the sides and the bottom. Once I had sewn around the edges of each piece to prevent fraying, I pinned everything together to double check the sizing. With the outer layer ready to be sewn, I moved on to prepping the shoulder straps until I got a little distracted. We're taking a quick intermission because look what just happened. Oh my god! This is so cool! There's 100,000 of you! What are you all doing here? Thank you so much for being here. I love you all so much. It's such an honor to be a part of your life and to have you be a part of mine. I'm gonna be on cloud 9 the rest of the day. This is like your gift to me. Intermission over, let's get back to work. The next morning, I finished up the straps and then sewed all of the outer pieces together. This is coming out way better than I expected. I love sewing. It's so cool that you can just make this, you know? Now I'm basically just gonna do all the same steps, but with the lining. So we're gonna do that, the straps, and then put everything together. So I sewed the lining in. It looks really good. I'm very proud of it. However, once I was done, I realized that I forgot to put the straps on. I'm just gonna make the straps now and then probably seam rip out the lining and redo it, which I'm very bummed about, but that just means that I won't do it wrong the next time. Back to it. Once the straps were ready to be added, I carefully seam ripped small sections between the outer layer and the lining to insert them, then stitched everything into place. And now I was ready to do it all over again with the other tote bag. This one came out way better. This one I just kind of like, I knew the formula. I knew what I was doing. The lines I feel like are way straighter, which I usually have a huge issue with. I do have a couple of leftover pieces. I tried to salvage as much of the birds as I could. So tomorrow, I think if I have a little extra time, I'm gonna try to make a couple pouches. I'm feeling very accomplished and exhausted. Who made such a mess of my office? We are moving right on to our next project. I went to the thrift store and I found this really cute heart-shaped box. I didn't realize it until I opened it up that it actually is a jewelry box. However, my intention for this is to make it into a pincushion. So I'm going to rip out the insides and make a little pillow to fit inside.
After the jewelry box was all cleaned out, I began drafting a paper pattern for the pincushion that would eventually fit inside. As for the fabric, I decided to use this thrifted fluffy pillowcase, but don't get too attached.
So my little wonky pillow is basically done. But when I just went looking for stuffing, I found all of my red velvet scraps. This was the fabric that I originally wanted to use, but I thought I didn't have any left. I think I'm just gonna treat my first version as a mock-up. I'm gonna stuff it and see how the pattern worked out. Let's do all of this again.
Since my first version ended up being too big anyway, this all ended up working out just fine. I drafted a new pattern and then repeated all the same steps as before.
Almost every single sewing item that I use came from my mom. As soon as I showed the tiniest interest in sewing, she just gave me all of her stuff. I mean, I have her sewing machine, I have her storage box. Literally all of the needles and most of the thread that I use came from her. And so now that she wants to get back into sewing, and her being the lovely and generous woman that she is, she refuses to take any of her stuff back. So since I have her pincushion, I wanted to make her something that was just as special to her as that is to me. Anyway, that's why I'm making a pincushion, just in case you were curious. I think it's about time for a new craft, so I'm going to try to make a couple of gifts out of polymer clay. I've never actually tried this before, so I'm really curious to see how it goes. It seems pretty straightforward, but I could be wrong. I just got a big thing of white clay, and then I'll just paint it once I bake it. I don't really have much of a plan going into this, but I'm going to try my best and see what happens.
Before making anything, I had to condition the clay to soften it and get it ready for sculpting. Once it was nice and squishy, I rolled it out and cut it into segments before shaping. In order to stick with my bird theme, I decided to make a bunch of little egg-shaped magnets. I started by making the egg whites and then just flattened a circle to make the yolk. After I finished all my eggs, I decided to make a few over-the-garden wall themed magnets as well, so I made a mini version of Greg's Rock Fact Rock, as well as a little Enoch, and then everything was ready to bake. After I was finished with the details, I made an extra cowboy boot to match the one that my sister made for me. I figured it was only fair to return the favor and make her something to match. Then I just added a few layers of Mod Podge to seal everything and then superglued the magnets to the back.
If you're looking for the perfect stash busting gift idea, I would highly recommend making scrunchies. Since I have a bunch of this extra fabric, I am just gonna bust out a bunch of scrunchies as extra stocking stuffers. But before I get started on all of these, let me just do a quick run through in case you wanna try it for yourself.
For my demonstration scrunchie, I'm gonna be using this beautiful thrifted fabric. The first step is to cut out a piece of fabric in one long strip. I'm kind of just cutting along the pattern for this one, but the measurements for all of the scrunchies that I made are around 5 to 8 inches in width and 28 to 32 inches in length. It just depends on how dramatic of a scrunchie you want. Next, take your strip of fabric, place the right sides together, and sew along that seam. Now we can move on to the edges. Start by pressing that seam you just made and fold over the edges about 1/4 inch. At this point, I'd like to sew a few inches along the edge of either side just to get myself started, but that is completely optional. Now it's time to add the hair elastic. Starting again at the seam, you're going to fold both sides together and place the hair elastic inside. Now we're back to the sewing machine to close off the edges. Since I don't want to repeatedly poke myself with pins, I slowly sew a few inches at a time, continuously pulling the fabric through the elastic, making sure to maintain an even seam. I definitely find this to be the easiest scrunchie method. However, I have to use all of my focus to keep my sewing line as straight and consistent as possible since all of the thread will be visible. But in the end, it's worth it for a super cute scrunchie. After making a couple of jumbo scrunchies, I made a few smaller versions for my niece out of this pink fabric to match the crown and wand that I made for her last year. Also, she did ask me for a shout out, so if you're watching this, hey girl! I thought I was finally done, but then I found this fancy leftover trim that matches this fabric perfectly, so I made one last scrunchie with the trim sandwiched between the edges. So I found this red ribbon at the thrift store the other day, and I feel like it's just begging to be turned into a few last-minute gifts. I'm not sure exactly what I want to make with it yet, but I'm just going to see what I can come up with today. Let's go. Pretty quickly, I decided to do something a bit on the nose and make a personalized prize ribbon. I started by cutting out a piece of foam board to act as the base, glued on a layer of red scrap fabric, and then just hot glued ribbon into little pleats along the edge. Once all the ruffles had been roughed, I cut smaller strips of ribbon to make a little decorative middle section to hide my hot glue mess. After adding long strips of ribbon to the bottom and this rose ribbon for embellishment, I figured I could just keep it simple, but then I remembered this vintage patch that I found and thought it would make the perfect addition. I am so close to being done. I'm right at the finish line. I can see it, and it is evident by how much of a mess my office is. Do not look. I said don't look. Anyway, my next project is another one that I've been putting off because it makes me nervous. My friend is interested in starting her sewing journey, so I got her a bunch of essentials, but I want to make a bag for everything to go in. So I'm going to see if I can figure out how to make like a circular drawstring bag. I'm kind of going in blind, but I feel like I can figure it out. Wish me luck. Per usual, I relied on my very limited knowledge of the circle skirt formula to draft a pattern for the bag. I cut out 2 circles measuring 28 inches in diameter, one for the outer layer and one for the lining. Since I wanted to make sure that all the details were done before I sewed everything together, I started by making a quick pocket for the inside of the bag and then sewed it directly to the lining. I wanted to add some extra structure to the bottom, so I salvaged some thick corduroy from this thrifted skirt that I had lying around. I cut out 4 6-inch layers to make sure it was a sufficient thickness, and then I sewed all of those pieces together before attaching them to the middle of the outer layer. The last piece to make was the strap. I kept it super simple and just cut out a strip of fabric measuring 6 inches by 16 inches, folded it into a tube, and stitched up either side. When everything was finally ready, I pinned the outer layer and the lining right sides together and carefully stitched along the edge before flipping them right side out. Thankfully, I did remember to leave openings for the strap this time, so I pinned it in place and then stitched around the outer ring again to hold everything together.
It may not look like it now, but this is gonna be a bag. I promise. I was kind of on a roll and my camera did die, but to explain what I did, I went around the outside twice to make a little channel, and then with the scraps, I made just this little cord. So I'm gonna feed that through the channel and hopefully this will magically turn into a bag. It's the final test. I think this is gonna work. Whenever I'm making gifts, there's always a point that I get to where I think, dang, I want to keep this. I like it. But I guess that's the mark of a good gift, you know? Okay, hold on. I gotta get it through the other side. Come on, Peaches. Wait! That's not bad. I'm feeling very proud of myself right now, so I'm gonna ride this high the rest of the night and see what else I can make.
Since I had so much extra energy left over from my successful project, I used it wisely to make a matching heart-shaped pincushion and a small pouch for extra supplies. And with that, the last gift is finished, and we're finally ready for the reveal.
I can't believe I got all that done. I am feeling so incredibly accomplished and proud of myself. All of the projects I feel like were a good culmination of my year. I spent this year trying a lot of new things and trying to add more skills to my repertoire, and I feel like I've been pretty successful in that. I don't even think that I could pick a favorite thing that I made. I'm so proud of how everything came out. I definitely love the tote bags. My sister and my mom absolutely loved them, and I'm so excited to make myself one. Since I did have bird scraps left over, I did end up making a little zipper pouch off camera, as well as like a little wristlet keychain thing. And my mom loved the pincushion too. The only change that I made off camera was that I took a little white bead and I just sanded it down until it fit in the little slot at the front. It does match the pins that I got, so I feel like aesthetically it's very nice. What else did I make? Oh, the magnets. I love how the egg magnets came out. I think they're my favorite. I think the project that impressed me the most was the sewing bag. I just love a project like that where I have to problem solve and figure things out. I don't know, I find sewing to be such a nice puzzle that I love to solve. All in all, I feel like this was a very successful handmade holiday season. This is definitely a tradition that I'm going to continue probably for the rest of my life. Also, I would love to know what you made for your loved ones this holiday season. I already have a list going for next year, so I would love some new ideas. Once again, thank you so much for being here. It truly means the absolute world to me. It is mind-boggling how many of you there are. I have a whole bunch of stuff planned for 2026, so stay tuned. As always, thanks for watching, happy holidays, and I'll see you next year.